Hi Reddit. My name is Brian. I'm 35 years old. Until last month, I lived in my dream home in a Boston suburb with my wife Catherine and our 2 children, Emma, 8, and Liam, 5. I had a good job in financial consulting that paid well enough for Catherine not to have to work if she didn't want to. She did want to, but more on that later. We had a golden retriever named Cooper, a minivan in the garage, and plans to build a porch extension by summer. I was that guy that friends looked at with mild envy. You know the type, the one who made it work. Whenever we got together for barbecues, someone would inevitably say, "Brian, how do you manage to keep your marriage so happy?" And I'd smile, shrug, and say something about working on relationships and really listening to each other. I genuinely believed it. I thought Catherine and I were a team that had weathered difficulties and only grown stronger. Now I know that all along, I was just a prop in a play Catherine had written for an audience of one, herself. Let me tell you about Catherine. Not the Catherine I discovered last month, but the one I fell in love with 12 years ago. We met at Logan Airport. Cliché, right? We were both running late for a flight to Chicago, both racing toward the same gate, and we collided, literally, head-on, our bags scattering everywhere. I remember how she laughed, brightly, genuinely, without a trace of embarrassment, and said, "Well, since we've definitely missed our flight, how about we at least get coffee?" We missed our flight. We had coffee. Then another. Then she canceled her trip to Chicago, I canceled mine, and we talked all evening at the hotel bar. Catherine was an artist, not just a weekend painter, but a real one, formally trained, with exhibitions in small galleries, with eyes that lit up when she talked about color and light. She wore strange handmade earrings, dyed her hair impossible shades of red, and could strike up a conversation with a stranger on the street so that within 5 minutes, they'd be telling her their life story. She was alive. She was fire. And I, a boring financial analyst in a gray suit, fell hopelessly in love with her. We married a year later. A year after that, Emma was born. Catherine insisted she would both work and raise a child simultaneously. I admired her for it. She'd wake up at 5 a.m. to paint before our daughter woke up, then be a mother all day, and in the evenings when I got home from work, she'd transform back into an artist. I'd tell her, "You're incredible. How do you manage everything?" She'd smile and say, "I just have good motivation." I thought the motivation was me and Emma. I thought we were her world. I was wrong. You know how it is in long relationships? You get used to certain things. Her habit of leaving coffee cups all over the house. Her irritability before deadlines. The way she'd sometimes stare into space with an absent look, and you'd have to wave your hand in front of her face to get her attention. I didn't pay attention to the small things. Well, I did notice them, but I interpreted them wrong. Small thing number 1. About 3 years into our marriage, Catherine became very protective of her phone. Before, it could be anywhere, the kitchen, the bedroom, the bathroom. Then, it was always with her. If she left it on the table and walked away, the screen was face down. Once, I picked up her phone to check the time. Mine was in another room. And she literally snatched it out of my hands, apologizing and saying she had a private conversation with her friend about my birthday gift open. I laughed it off and forgot about it. Now I understand, that was the first warning sign. Small thing #2. Catherine had artist residencies. She'd leave for a week or two to some cabin in the woods or a cottage on the coast to paint in peace. I always supported this. I'd say, "Go, honey. You deserve it. I'll handle the kids." I was proud of my progressiveness, proud that I wasn't the kind of husband who keeps his wife locked away. I even envied her freedom a little. When she came back, she always brought new paintings. Beautiful, deep, slightly melancholic. I hung them on the walls and thought, I have a real artist living in my home. I didn't know that some of those paintings depicted places where she hadn't been alone. Small thing number 3. We had separate bank accounts. It seemed reasonable. She had her income from art sales, I had my salary. We split shared expenses evenly. Well, I paid more, but that was fine, I earned more. Occasionally, I'd notice strange sums leaving her account. Nothing huge, but noticeable. I'd ask, "Kat, is everything okay with your money?" She'd wave it off. "Paint supplies are insanely expensive, honey. And brushes. And canvases. You have no idea." I had no idea. I'd never looked into the cost of art supplies. I believed her. Small thing number 4. This was the hardest one. Catherine was always a bit, in her own world. She's an artist, after all. But over the years, it intensified. She could sit next to me on the couch, watching TV, and be 1,000 miles away. If I tried to talk about something serious, about us, about the future, about her feelings, she'd either avoid the conversation or give vague answers. Everything's fine, Brian. Don't invent problems. Sometimes she'd snap without reason, yell at the kids, and an hour later be laughing as if nothing happened. I chalked it up to stress, to exhaustion, to creative blocks. I was an idiot. I was the classic husband who didn't see what was right in front of him because he didn't want to see. 3 weeks ago, Wednesday, an ordinary evening, I came home from work early because Liam was sick and Catherine had asked me to pick up Emma from school while she stayed with the younger one. The house was suspiciously quiet. Liam was asleep in his room. Catherine was sitting in the living room with a laptop on her knees. When I walked in, she snapped the lid shut. So sharply it sounded like a gunshot. "Oh, you're here already?" she said, her voice wavering. "I didn't hear you come in." "I rang the doorbell," I replied. "You didn't answer, so I used my key." "Ah, right, I had headphones on. Listening to an art lecture." I looked at the laptop. She was pressing the lid down with both hands, as if afraid it would jump up and run away. Something clicked inside me. That, enough is enough, feeling that comes after years of suppressing your intuition. "Kat, is everything okay?" I asked. "You've seemed jumpy lately." "Everything's fine," she snapped. "Just tired. Liam was up all night with a fever. Maybe I'll pick up Emma, and you can rest?" "Yeah, great idea." I nodded and headed for the door. But something made me turn around. She wasn't looking at me, she was looking at the laptop. With an expression on her face. You know how you look at a lover? With that mix of hidden tenderness and anxiety? I didn't go get Emma. I went to the car, sat there for 5 minutes, and then went back into the house. Quietly, trying not to make noise. Liam was asleep. Catherine was in the living room, but I approached from the other side, through the kitchen, and stopped in the doorway where I could see her laptop screen. She was messaging someone. I could only see her face. She was smiling. Not the smile you give a friend or colleague. The smile you give when you're writing to someone who gives you butterflies. I would recognize that smile anywhere. Once upon a time, she smiled at me like that. I didn't go in. I didn't cause a scene. I just turned around, went to get Emma, and then sat on a bench at the school, watching my daughter play with her friends, thinking, what if my whole life is a lie? The next 3 days, I turned into a detective. I know it's ugly, I know it's a breach of trust, but that trust was already cracked. I had to know. I started small. I noticed Catherine had become even more secretive. She'd take her phone to the bathroom. She'd sleep with it under her pillow. Once, I woke up in the middle of the night and saw the faint glow of a screen. She was messaging someone at 3 a.m., thinking I was asleep. I wasn't asleep. I watched her silhouette and felt something inside me dying. On the 4th day, I did something I'd never done. I checked her email. I knew the password, our wedding date. She'd never changed it, and that used to seem like a sign of trust. I opened the laptop when she took Liam to the doctor. I didn't find emails to a lover. I found something worse. Thousands of emails. Years of correspondence. Not with one person, with dozens. Men, women, couples. And the topics. God, the topics. Catherine had been living a double life. No, a triple life. No, an infinite life. She wasn't just selling paintings. She was selling herself. I sat there, numb, reading messages on specialized websites I hadn't even known existed. She was an escort model, an artist seeking patrons, a girl for travel companions. She met men during those artist residencies. She accepted gifts for her company. She ran a blog, private, where she posted photos of herself, not pornographic, no, more artistic, but revealing enough to attract attention. I found conversations where she discussed prices, where she arranged meetings in hotels, where she talked about her family to clients. Yes, she mentioned me and the kids, but as cover, as part of the persona of a married woman seeking variety. I found emails from 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 months ago, last week. This had been going on our entire marriage. I don't know how I found the strength to wait for her to come home. I sat in the living room, on the same couch where we'd watched movies, where Emma learned to read, where Liam took his first steps. On the coffee table lay a printout. Not of all the emails. I couldn't have printed everything even if I'd wanted to. There were gigabytes. I printed one, the earliest I could find. Dated 6 months after our wedding. She walked in with Liam in her arms, saw my face, and froze. "Brian, what happened? Is Emma okay?" "Emma's at a friend's house," I said. My voice was strange, metallic. "Put Liam in his crib and come back. We need to talk. You're scaring me." She tried to smile. Put the baby down and come back." She went pale. I'd never seen her so pale. She nodded and went to the nursery. I heard her humming a lullaby, mechanically, on autopilot. Then she came back and sat in the armchair across from me, curling her legs under her like a little girl awaiting punishment. I handed her the printout. "Read it aloud," I said. She read it. Her lips moved silently. Then she looked up at me. "Brian," she began. "No," I interrupted. Don't, Brian, me. Don't give me explanations. Don't cry. I just want to know one thing. Just one. Why didn't you leave? Why didn't you say, 'Brian, I'm not cut out for monogamy, I want a different life'? Why did you let me love you all these years, buy you this house, raise children with you, make plans, while all along you were sleeping with other people for money?" "It wasn't just for the money," she whispered. It was part of who I am. I couldn't control it. It was like an addiction. I tried to stop. Honestly, I tried. After Emma was born, I thought it would end. But then I'd feel empty. I felt like I was losing myself. And out there, with them, I felt alive. Like I wasn't just a mother and wife, but still a woman, desired, free. "Free?" I shouted. "You call that freedom? You were a slave to your own lies. You lied to me every day, every hour. You looked into your children's eyes and lied to them. You lied to everyone, to yourself most of all." "I know," she cried. Tears streamed down her cheeks, smearing her mascara. "I know, Brian. I'm a monster. I'm sick. I need help." "Help?" I laughed. It was a horrible, ragged laugh. "You're right, you need help. But not from me. I'm leaving, Catherine." "No." She threw herself at me, fell to her knees, grabbed my hands. "No, please. For the children. For Emma and Liam. They don't deserve a divorce. I'll fix this. I'll go to therapy. I'll close all the accounts. I'll be the perfect wife. Just please don't leave." I looked at her. The woman I'd loved more than anything in the world. The mother of my children. And I saw a stranger. A beautiful, talented liar who had shattered my life into pieces. "You should have thought about the children," I said quietly. "All these years, when you went on your residencies, when you were messaging clients at night, when you risked everything we had, you should have been thinking about them. But you were only thinking about yourself." I stood up, pulling my hands free. "I'm staying at a hotel tonight. I'll come for my things tomorrow. Don't try to contact me. Custody arrangements will go through lawyers." I left. I heard her sobbing in the living room. I heard Liam wake up and cry in unison with her. I heard Cooper barking. My home, my family, my life. It all sounded like a funeral march as I got in my car and drove away into nothing. The next 2 weeks were hell. I rented a small apartment, sterile white, characterless, perfectly matching my internal state. I hired the best divorce lawyer in Boston, a woman named Patricia whose reputation as a tough negotiator gave me hope. "Brian," she said after I laid out the facts, "this is complicated, but not hopeless. Do you have proof?" Tens of thousands of emails. Screenshots. Her correspondence for 11 years. Patricia whistled. "That changes things. In Massachusetts, infidelity itself rarely affects asset division, but if we can prove she spent marital money on hobbies, that could work in our favor. Plus the custody question. A judge is unlikely to leave children with a mother living that kind of lifestyle, especially if there's any risk that clients might have come to the house." "They didn't come to the house," I said. "As far as I know." She was careful. "As far as you know." Patricia looked at me over her glasses. "Brian, you need to be prepared for the possibility that you don't know everything. Are you ready for full transparency? For new details to emerge?" "I'm ready for anything," I replied. It can't get worse. How wrong I was. A week into the divorce proceedings, Catherine filed a motion to keep the children with her. She'd hired a lawyer specializing in mother's rights and launched a campaign to discredit me. She claimed I was emotionally abusive, that I controlled her, didn't let her develop as an artist, suppressed her personality. That my work consumed all my time, leaving her feeling lonely and abandoned. That her escort services weren't infidelity but a way to cope with the depression I'd caused. She told her lawyer I'd threatened her, that I was aggressive, that the children were afraid of me. I read these statements and couldn't believe my eyes. This was the same woman who 6 years ago wrote in a birthday card, "Thank you for giving me wings." Who held my hand when I buried my father? Who whispered, "I love you," every night before sleep? Or was it, maybe it was just another role? The worst thing about divorce isn't the asset division or endless court dates. The worst thing is looking into your children's eyes and seeing confusion and pain. I picked up Emma and Liam every weekend. The first weekend was a nightmare. Emma, my brilliant 8-year-old, looked at me with suspicion. "Dad, Mom said you left because you don't love her anymore," she said as we drove to the park. Is that true? I couldn't breathe. How do you explain betrayal to an 8-year-old? How do you say, "Sweetheart, I love your mother, but she destroyed everything I believed in, and now I can't look at her"? "I will always love you and Liam," I said, staring at the road. That's the most important thing. As for Mom, adult relationships are complicated. Sometimes people can't be together, even if they love each other. "But you don't love her?" Emma persisted. "I love her as the mother of my children," I said carefully. "But being husband and wife isn't working for us anymore." Emma fell silent and turned to the window. Liam, oblivious, played with a toy dinosaur in the backseat. I looked in the rearview mirror at his red hair. He was Catherine's double, and felt my heart shatter. When we got back, Catherine waited at the door. She looked tired, thinner, with dark circles under her eyes. Our eyes met. "How were they?" she asked quietly. "Fine," I replied coldly. "Emma's asking questions I can't answer. I can talk to her." "No," I interrupted. "You've talked to her enough. I know what you told her. That I left because I stopped loving you. That I'm the bad guy. You're using the children as weapons, Catherine. That's a new low, even for you." "I didn't," she started, but I was already getting in the car. "See you in court," I said, and drove away. Yesterday, something happened that finished me off completely. I was sitting in my empty apartment, trying to work remotely, when the doorbell rang. At the door stood a man around 40, well-dressed, with a nervous expression. "Brian?" he asked. "Yes. Who are you?" "My name is David." I was a client of your wife's. A few years ago." "Why are you here?" I asked, not inviting him in. "I heard about the divorce through mutual acquaintances," he said. "And I thought you should know. She wasn't just meeting men. She had women too. And couples. And I wasn't just a client. I thought we were something more. She said she loved me. That she'd leave you. I waited 3 years. Then I found out she'd said the same thing to 5 other guys." I leaned against the doorframe. My legs went weak. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I know what it's like to be deceived by her," David said. "And because I have proof. Recordings of conversations. Gifts I bought her. The hotel where we spent our anniversaries. If it helps you in court, here's my card." He handed me a business card. I took it mechanically. "I'm sorry, Brian," he said finally. "She has a gift for choosing good men and breaking their hearts." He left, and I slid down the wall to the floor and sat there for hours, staring at nothing. Catherine hadn't just cheated. She'd created parallel lives. She had husbands in other cities, business partners, friends with benefits. She collected people like paintings. And I was just the largest canvas in her gallery, the one where she painted Ideal Family. Today marks exactly 1 month since I left. I'm sitting on the floor of my empty apartment writing this endless post because if I don't get it out, I'll go insane. Tomorrow is the first custody hearing. I have proof. I have a lawyer. I have the determination to fight for my children. But inside, there's nothing left. Catherine didn't just take 11 years of my life. She took my ability to believe, my ability to trust, my ability to love. I look at the photo of Emma and Liam on my phone and ask myself, will I ever be happy again? Will I ever look into a woman's eyes and believe she's telling the truth? I don't know the answer. I only know one thing. I will survive. For them, for myself, for that version of me that didn't yet know the world could be so cruel. Thank you for reading this far. If you've been through something similar, how did you cope? How do you learn to trust again? How do you explain to children that their mother isn't bad, just sick? How do you keep from becoming bitter at the whole world? Update 2 hours later. Guys, I didn't expect this much support. Thank you to everyone who wrote words of encouragement. I'm reading all the comments, even the harsh ones. You're right, I need therapy. I made an appointment with a psychologist for next week. Some are asking why I didn't notice earlier. Here's my answer. Because I didn't want to notice. Because I loved her. Because I believed in the fairy tale. Now the fairy tale is over, and real life has begun. It's scary and painful, but maybe that's the only way to grow. I'll keep you posted. Court tomorrow. Keep your fingers crossed for me.